How's everybody doing? My name's Mike, and we got Mr. Joe with us today. As you can see, I'm trying to make sure I'm in the frame of the camera. As you can see, we got Joe in his crate, and right now we're just practicing structure with him, and we're just practicing him not just, bolting out of the crate. Obviously, the crate door is open, and he understands, what I'm doing. He understands the exercise. So with structure, we also need to practice leash awareness. This is a big thing I see with owners and the dog, just even when I'm teaching people. It is, what I'm talking about is if I ask the dog to sit and then I'm like opening a door, and I'm going to show you with the door of the crate. Say I'm opening the door and you have the dog in a sit. Now it is up to the person at the end of the leash to actually loosen that leash up before you open the door. And so what happens is the owner will go to open the door and then will accidentally put some pressure on the leash, and the dog will move. And the dog will break the sit, and now the owner has to say, no, shut the door, get the dog back into a sit. And it doesn't really set them up for success, right? The only way to set the dog up for success is to make sure we have our part down. So I'm going to go ahead and start demonstrating how to keep that leash loose when you're letting the dog in and out of a threshold. So here we go. I don't think I can push this back anymore. I think I got it tied up. Let me see. Here we go. That's a little bit better. So, okay, heel. So you have to come out calm as well. But really, just good boy, heel. I just want to focus on the door here. Sit. Good boy, sit. So now when I go to reach down here, I have to actually loosen this leash like this. Sit. I have to loosen it because, again, what typically happens is, and I'm going to remind them, sit. I'm teaching them not to move just because I have the pressure. What happens is they say sit, and they go to reach for the door, and now the dog moves because the dog already wanted to move because it's wanting to go through the doorway right when it opens. All right, so sit. See how I reminded him to sit when he was about to move? That saved him from a correction. So your timing's very important. So again, I'm by the dog, sit. That's why I have a carabiner on this because it opens like that. So I'm by him. I tell him to sit. I got to loosen that leash up. But what happens is a lot of owners are worried that, well, if I start moving, the dog's going to move, so I need to keep a short leash. Well, you have to be very aware that this is loose, because once you start putting some pressure on it, he's going to want to move, and it's not really fair to him. You're kind of mixing up the signals. So it's very important to get your leash handling skills down with your dog. So if I ask him to sit, I can go up to this door much easier when it's loose and we're relaxed and, it's not tense. Sit, and now I can also fix this. And I'm doing all this kind of for the video so that way you can see that the dog will sit and wait for these things. But you have to have the message clear, sit, and that's how we get them to stay, is repeat the command. Den. So now he can walk into his den. So that's what's very important. If I want the dog to stay in the sit position but I start pulling on the leash, it gets confusing for the dog. That is one way how we teach them how to stay, but that's not the mistake that's being made there. And this is very common. I see this almost every time I remind people over and over. When you get up to the front door, you have to make sure this leash is loose when he's in a sit and you're going to open the door. Heel. Good boy, good job. Sit. And I want him to come out calm like that. That's what I taught him. Sit. So I don't want him to move just because I'm touching the door. Sit. So again, I'm going to replicate that. Say we're at the crate or any threshold or whatever. Sit. Now, if I don't loosen this leash up, he's going to move with me if I say sit and I start moving. This is something I see very often. So again, anytime you ask your dog to sit, it's going to be sit and you drop that leash just like that. Now, if the dog goes to move, then you would jump into action, correct the dog, put the dog in the same spot, and ask him to sit. Sit, boy. And it's even harder for him to sit right where he is right now because the floor that I'm using is super slick. That's why you see him moving his paws like that. Sit. Heel. Then. Good job, buddy. Good boy. It's also very important to use a leash with the dog when he's coming in and out of the crate because this is how you're going to control him. This dog, when I first got him, he didn't want to go in the crate, and then when he was in the crate, he would not come out of the crate. Heel. So that's not really the point today. Sit. The point today is that when we reach for the door and things like that, we have this leash still loose. We want to have leash awareness and make sure that when we're working with the dog and we ask him to sit, that the leash is not taut, that it's loose. As soon as this is taut and now you go to move, it's going to pull him. And when the dog's back with the owner anyways, they're already wanting to get ahead of the owner. So it's very important to make sure that when you're working with your dog and you ask them to sit, that you have them in a sit and you're not tugging the leash when you go to move places, that they have plenty of room on the leash. And your job is to remind them, sit. And that way they know what you want from them in that moment. Dan, good job, buddy.